Hei, welcome.
Hei.
Så dette her, nå skal vi snakke om noe jeg ikke kan noe som helst om på engelsk. Det er derfor jeg får betalt, antagelig. So, as I said, David, AI-driven traffic to online stores in the US has grown by more than 4,700% in 1 year. Amazing. Is agentic commerce, is that something Norwegian e-commerce merchants need to act on now?
Look, I think they should. I think two things are happening. One, consumer adoption of these products is growing rapidly, and the array of tasks that consumers are using these LLMs for is every day increasing. So you've got consumer adoption of LLMs just generally becoming an everyday affair. Coupled with that, the development that's happening within the products themselves is just increasing so quickly. And I don't know if everybody in the audience follows these things, but the pace at which Claude, for example, is shipping new functionality is just unbelievable. And so you have consumer adoption growing very, very quickly, and the capabilities of the products themselves growing very, very quickly. And so, I think your base assumption should be that in the very near future, a meaningful share of all of your transactions are being made by a non-human agent. And the reason why I think you should think about that now is every day you're making choices, whether they're design choices, checkout choices, inventory choices. Every day you're making choices. And I think you should be making those choices with an understanding that in the very near future, a very large number of your transactions are going to be made by an agent. So I think it is something to think about now. I see it happening already. And I think in a very short period of time, it's going to be a really meaningful share of checkout.
All right, but I think we need to get back to the basics. If you don't mind, would you care to just explain what are we talking about?
I think now, in the short term, we're talking about shoppers doing research through agents, LLM agents, and we haven't seen, at least not in Europe yet, that you fulfill a purchase and the agent is buying on your behalf or even paying inside the LLM. But we did a survey with users in Vips a few weeks back, and already now users are saying that they're using LLMs for product research more than they use social media. So I think even to your earlier question on should we act now, I think this is happening. It's not something that we could stop or just watch and wait. Users are now using LLMs, even though they are developing and the quality of the LLMs are improving every month. Users are in the LLMs and they're now exploring your products as part of the LLM journey.
It's happening. So you launched Klarna. Launched the agentic protocol back in December 2025. What is it?
When we looked at the space, we felt that most companies were focused on the actual transaction. How do you facilitate a payment in an agentic commerce world? How do you know that the agent, has a mandate to spend, how much, how to charge back worse? Everybody was focused on the transaction. And our view was the bigger problem to solve was actually the product catalog. People underestimate how challenging it is to ingest product feeds from thousands of different merchants. Some say iPhone 17, some just say iPhone, some say that iPhone is waterproof, some don't, some use a SKU, some don't. To take all of those product feeds and then identify this is the same product, and then determine which one you're going to surface to a consumer. That's a really hard problem. And so what we wanted to ensure was that there was an easy way for e-commerce brands and retailers to make sure that their inventory was accessible by consumers when they're using these agents, when they're using these LLMs. So effectively, all the product protocol does is make sure that your inventory is machine readable. It takes your inventory, it's a consistent format, and it makes it easy for a machine to read it. And what that means is the chances that you will surface in these queries, the chances that a customer will be able to actually make a transaction a significant increase. Like, is it in stock? Is it on sale? Is the right size available? These are all things that you can answer with the product protocol, because for 20 years now we've optimized for search engine optimization. Everybody in this room is really good at making sure their brand surfaces. The next challenge is, how do you make sure when somebody does type in, I'm looking for the best microwave, how do you make sure it's your microwave? Because that LLM is going to suggest three products. How do you make sure yours is one of them? We thought the product protocol was a really efficient way of doing that.
Right. Vegard, AI agents access, I think, is something like 100 million products across you're in 12 markets. What happens to the merchants who are not in that feed?
I think we launched with the agentic protocol from Klarna. We launched an AI shopping agent inside Vipps and started experimenting, just using some of these product lines that are readily available now. I think the next step now is for merchants to make sure that their product catalog is readily available, and pooling that data so it's accessible for AI agents, if it's some of the big LLMs or if it's more localized product catalog.
Looking ahead then, 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, 2 years, 5 years, what happens if you're invisible to these AI-driven commerce?
I think, and that's the risk that all shops are into. But we've been in that risk before when it comes to social media marketing and everything. It's about your brand, the customer experience. And I truly believe that that's going to survive in an AI-driven shopping experience as well. Users have a relationship with you as a brand, and that relationship will continue to live inside AI agents. And it's not like the AI agents will have preference of their own. The preference will be derived from consumer preference. You just have to make sure that your products are available.
How do they make sure they're not losing control? Because that's, I guess that's one of the biggest fears.
Yeah, I mean, it's building on that. I mean, it's very normal to be scared about what's going to happen here, right? Like, I think that retailers were nervous when the internet arrived, but you always have to meet the customer where they are. Like that's the truth. Like, ultimately, the consumer's going to do what's best for them, and that's going to be use these products, for sure. And so you can either lean in and try and meet the customer where they are. I think sitting out, trying to sit this one out, is going to work out really badly for retailers, is my guess. And so what can they do? Like what you all do today, build a fantastic brand, create an emotional connection with the consumer, build great products. To your point, like the agent doesn't have a preference. They reflect, the consumer's preference. So, the answer is to just double down on all of the things you do well today. Double down on all of the things you do well today, and make sure the customer chooses you. Like I always think about it from a payment perspective, because it's true for me. It's as true for me as it is for you. The agent's now the one picking the button at the checkout. And so, what do? I always make sure I'm the best button to press. That wake up every day. How do we make sure we're the best button to press? You all have to do the same. Continue to build the best brand, ship the best product, and then meet the consumer where they are, which is in these products. Yeah.
Is it though a legitimate fear that they are at risk of losing control of the experience and the checkout?
Yeah. Look, any time there's someone that sits between you and the customer, you lose something, right? Whether that's Amazon Marketplace or Walmart Marketplace, whether it's the customer's discovering you in Google, you're always going to look. That's to an extent life, right? That's to an extent life. These are such powerful distribution channels that you have to weigh up the cons of total control versus the losing total control versus the pros of reaching a huge audience, right? So I don't think it's any different than it is today when a customer discovers you on Google, to be honest, yeah.
Jeg fikk bare lyst til å ta en liten skjønner alle hva vi snakker om? Ja. Fordi du hadde sorry, two words in Norwegian. Fordi dette er såpass nytt at det er ikke helt gitt.
Masse protokoller,
ja, det er ferdig som protokoller.
Det er kanskje 10 nye betalingsprotokoller som har kommet på dette området.
Ja, så man er tilgitt hvis man ikke har fått med seg siste skrik innen disse protokollene. Yeah, but you at Vipps, you launched an AI shopping assistant, and you tested it during Black Week.
Yes, launched just before Black Week last year in the Christmas shopping. Surprisingly high adoption, just not marketed, just turn it on in the Vipps app. And we have a approach to test out these kind of new experiences of shopping inside the Vipps app, and then inviting some key merchants to join that kind of developing a more Nordic, local way of doing AI shopping, because we think that AI shopping will be not only part of these big LLMs like OpenAI and Google, but it will be part of retailer store shop sites. It's going to be part of many different apps, and playing that, developing that customer experience is one of the strategies for Vipps going forward.
And if agentic commerce becomes the new interface of shopping online, a new layer, you're worried that also this layer will become an international market for, the international tech companies just takes it all, yeah?
Yeah, I think the tech development, and you see the growth of some of these hugely advanced AI LLMs now, we're risking that these will be very, very powerful platforms, and being part of those platforms is going to be tough for even Nordic, maybe even European companies. So that's going to be the play going forward. But I don't think the game is lost yet, because we have strong brands in the Norwegian and the Nordic markets. And the positive side of this is e-commerce is going to grow tremendously out of this. But it's going to change who that growth falls on.
Is it an uphill battle though? Because you spent it was years fighting Apple for ages to get, yeah, and you did finally become like was it the world's only
world's first on NFC
world's first alternative. So is this are you going to spend years fighting Apple again?
I think at least the development is moving much faster now, but the European development in this area is already quite regulated when it comes to payment security and so on. You need trust, GDPR. So I think we can move forward quite fast in Europe with the support of GDPR and other regulations, so that we can develop services that are truly Nordic and European, as alternatives maybe to a bit more unregulated services otherwise.
Right. And what's an online store or a merchant to do then? How do you choose? Because is it like some 10 protocols out there now?
Yeah, there are a lot. And look, if you look at Klarna's perspective, we're integrating with almost all of them. So we're making sure Klarna is available, whether or not you've adopted Google's MCP or whether or not you've lent into Stripe and OpenAI. So we want to make sure that we're ready for any of them. There is definitely sort of almost a protocol race that's happening at the moment. I don't think retailers need to stress too much about which protocol, right? Like, regardless of which one you pick, even if those individual protocols aren't necessarily interoperable, the agent will understand any of them. So, pick one, it doesn't matter, I think, which one you pick, as long as it's one of the big ones. If you go Google, if you go Stripe, you will be fine. Now, my advice for retailers is, just as, the internet and, the explosion of mobile devices was an opportunity for retailers. A lot of retailers were obviously very apprehensive about that and what it meant for brick and mortar. But ultimately, it was an opportunity. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to grow your business, to reach more consumers. And this is, as scary as AI is, and there are a lot of, potentially negative consequences from AI that society needs to work through, it is a tremendous time to be a builder. It has never been as possible to build at scale, just, so incredibly quickly. It is a really exciting time to be a builder. And so, everybody in this room, is an entrepreneur or is a builder. Like, you all have companies, you're all growing those companies. It's never been easier. It's never been easier. So I just have a way of going, just as all of these other big changes were opportunities, this is an opportunity, and I would really lean into it, because I think you're going to have some really big winners. People are going to grow their business. I think it's a really exciting time. As scary as it is as well in many areas, it's also really exciting.
There's no risk of picking wrong, though, is that?
I would, if you go with one of the big ones, you will be fine. Your products will be accessible to agents. Yeah.
But let me add to that, because I think it might be sad that you've been working on that perfect customer flow for the last 5 years on your website, and now people are not going to visit your website anymore.
Right.
I don't think it's not going to happen
Yeah, I don't
overnight.
think so.
But I do think that I'm going to David on this growth potential. I think we're eyeing now a growth of e-commerce similar to what we saw during the pandemic. And remember that e-commerce still is only 25% of total retail volume in the Norwegian market. So doubling e-commerce in an agentic wave, it's completely possible. And the user journeys that will be derived from agentic is going to be much, much better shopping online than going into a physical store.
What are they to do then? Are they to close down their homepages, or are they?
Please make sure that the data is readable and through protocols or otherwise to make sure that your products are discoverable and readable. That's the step.
That's the step forward. Okay, so in this agentic commerce, is Klarna getting closer to their customers, to your customers?
That's
Is that what
question. That's a good question. Is Klarna getting close to our customers? I think that's a good question. I think that what's my goal, right? Like, and my boss describes my job in a very easy way. He just wants Klarna to be everywhere Visa is accepted. Visa is accepted at 150 million locations. We're accepted at 1 million. So I've got a heap of work to do, right? Like, and so when I think about the opportunity for agentic commerce, it's just another opportunity for me to make Klarna, more available. So is that, if it is your preferred way, if it's not your preferred way to shop, no problem. If it is, we want to make sure you can shop with us everywhere. And so whether it's, getting closer or not, what I work really hard on is just, I think about our partnership with Vipps. Why did we partner with Vipps and why are we so excited about that? Because we knew people in Norway, this was how they wanted to pay. So rather than try to get them onto Klarna, meet the customer where they are. We put Klarna in Vipps. Same with merchants. We're not asking merchants to integrate Klarna anymore. We say, hey, integrate Vipps. And so that's the way we're looking at this. It's just another opportunity for us to get Klarna in front of more customers who want to use our services. Yeah.
How about you? It is another layer between the customer and the store.
Absolutely, but I think the need for trust is even bigger now than maybe the current shopping processes were. And from some customer service that we've done, 80% is not ready to leave their payment details in AI shopping or even let the agent shop on their behalf. Maybe as a payment wallet, we can take care of that sort of trust layer with a trusted brand, and you have the trusted payment methods inside, and you can approve or decline some of these payments through a wallet. And that's an additional layer that will add value to not only the customer journey, but the trust and the security for shops to be on these platforms.
Is it true, David, that you replaced 700 customer service agents with AI and then reversed the course because you regretted?
I think that's the headline, but it's a little bit more nuanced. We built an agent that could effectively handle the same volume as about 700. I think what was a really interesting lesson for us, though, is that people want to speak to people. And so even when the agent gave the perfect answer, if it wasn't the answer that the person wanted, they still wanted to talk to a human. And so I think it was a really powerful lesson about the limitations of some of these tools. Like, it wasn't that the agent was ever wrong. The agent was actually really, really accurate. The agent gave great advice. It just sometimes wasn't the advice the customer wanted. And when that happens, you want to speak to a human. And so, we recognize that. So we actually have an initiative in the business now called Always Human, making sure that, we actually have really, really high quality human customer service because we know that's what people want. And the other thing I think is just interesting for all of us, like, customer service bots have been so bad for so long that even now when you get a good one, people just go, I want to speak to a person, and eventually get put in touch with them. So you're actually battling against 15 years of really bad bots, and people have been trained they're bad. And then too, like, it's nice to talk to people. Yeah,
of course it is. You've integrated with Google's agent payment protocol, OpenAI's agentic commerce protocol, and Stripe's shared payment tokens. Yeah, that's 3 different protocols. Is this going to fragment the way the internet has fragmented?
Look, I think the days of the most famous protocol of all time is HTTP. That's the most famous protocol of all time. Right? The days of there being one dominant protocol anymore, I think is going to be hard. I just don't think that's going to happen. So So, we picked some of the ones that we think are, have the highest, likelihood of success. There will be more, we'll integrate with more. We really just wanted to make sure we were broadly available.
And are you also partnered up with Google? Yeah.
We're working with all the players that you mentioned
With
here,
all
but then
the players, yeah.
size matters in the discussion with these players. So that's a challenge going forward, and I think a challenge that some of the stores will recognize as well. In this game, it's everlasting size battle in being at the right place for the customers.
And there's nothing ironic about that.
I think growth will matter going forward, but then at least you have trust, brand, local adaptations that many of these players who are now just making services globally, they have to adapt to local conditions to meet the users because they are often the same users as we are servicing.
Would you be able to develop this from scratch?
I think partnerships is the way going forward in this. We have to make a customer journey that's built on partnerships that customers will then see a fantastic way of shopping and built on local trust, built on local product catalogs, maybe built on some global technology. But those things combined will bring agentic commerce forward.
Right. So the one thing that a Norwegian commerce online store or merchant should do tomorrow, when it comes to this agentic commerce, what's your tip?
I think we alluded to it on the data side. I think making sure that search engine optimization now, it's LLM optimization readiness, but then doing pilots and experimenting on this, doing an agentic shopping journey on your own website.
Doing it yourself.
That's at least one way of just understanding and experimenting and check your customers' interest in doing these journeys. And of course have a relevant payment method.
Yeah, exactly. Add this. No, look, tactically, make sure you have inventory and a product catalog that is machine readable. You need structured data. Basically, it's not a human; it's a machine. Make sure it's machine readable. And then, more generally, like I can't emphasize enough, like to lean in. I think this is a really exciting time. The space is moving so fast that the only way to keep up with it is to your point, try heaps of different things, run pilots, alternate between the different models because every 2 weeks one jumps out ahead of the other, one launches a new feature. It's a really exciting time.
Well, it is exciting. Thank you so much, David and Vegard. Thank you.